Hi, this is Chat with Dr. Kat, and I'm Dr. Kat. Today we're going to be talking about gaslighting. Everybody talks about gaslighting. We see it on TV programs. We hear it from friends. We may use that term. Does everybody gaslight? A little bit, but maybe not with the malicious intent that it really stems from. So we're going to talk about the different styles of gaslighting, the different terminology of it, and really what it's about. Because I think sometimes people use it incorrectly as well. So before we get started, my website, Chat with Dr. Kat, please go there. If you have comments, suggestions, thoughts, feelings, you can write in your name and email address, write in whatever you want. You can do it purely anonymously. Again, that anonymous feeling can be really great, but you're going to be heard either way. Remember this podcast. This podcast is about so many different things, but it really is about connecting with our relationships that we have with other people, our world, our community. So, before we get going with that, remember, it's no fluff, no judgment, just real talk that leads to real change. Okay, gaslighting. So that term originated in 1938 by a play called Gaslight. The play was about a husband who would literally be dimming a gaslight while letting his wife know that it wasn't happening. In other words, he was trying to get her to think that she was crazy by lowering the gas light, the actual light. So it's about control. It's about manipulation. It's about trying to get somebody else to do what you want them to do through manipulation. So in the beginning, I said, does everybody do it? Well, yeah, sometimes when we're in the heat of an argument and we're feeling defensive or angry or any of these things, we want to protect ourselves. And sometimes we feel like no one's hearing our side. So then we become a little bit manipulative. Here's the big difference. If somebody is planning an action, like in the original play, he planned to dim the light with the intention to make his wife feel crazy. That truly is gaslighting. It's that intention of it. Now, is there a thread of it when there's not direct manipulation? There is, and that's why we want to look at that, and we want to maybe work with how we could move away from gaslighting. And I'm going to give you some techniques too on how to do that. Okay, I'm going to run through a list of some things that give you examples, okay? So one of the types of gaslighting is countering. That's when somebody is saying to you, you're in an argument and you're saying, I remember you came in the house and you did this and then you did this. And they'll say to you, what? No, you're remembering that wrong. That's not what happened at all. It didn't happen at all that way, but you did remember it that way. Now, there are differences in perception. Somebody sees something one way, another person sees it in a different way. That's perception. But gaslighting is a little bit different because, again, it's that intention to make the person feel as though they're not remembering things accurately when in fact they are. Okay, so that's that power play and that control. Withholding. When you start having a conversation and they're not giving you the information that you want, they're not saying to you, maybe you're right, or validating your feelings. They downplay. And it's, again, another form of that manipulation where they downplay and say, you're not remembering it correctly. You're trying to confuse me. I don't know why you're saying those things. That's not how I felt. All of these things, which again, lead the other person, your partner, your friend, to believe that what they're saying is not accurate. Second guessing what they're feeling and what they're thinking. Again, control. Another one is trivializing. That's when you're in the middle of an argument and someone says, "Oh, you're just too sensitive. Wow, you're just overreacting." Now, sometimes people in a conversation can say that because they do feel like maybe the person is overreacting, and there's a lot of, lack of a better word, histrionics, meaning large emotions. Maybe there are large emotions. Maybe the person is trying to say, "My gosh, you're being too sensitive over this. That's not what I meant. That's not what I'm feeling at all." It can be a form of gaslighting if the intent is to make the other person feel as though they are going crazy. Do you see the difference? So again, sometimes when someone says to you, "Wow, you're being a little too oversensitive," or "You're overreacting," and the person says, "Oh, now you're gaslighting me." Okay, by definition, maybe, but it really, again, you've got to look at the intent. Gaslighting is all about the intent to make the other person feel controlled or manipulated, because they want to either get out of the situation or they truly just want the person to feel as though they're inadequate. So let's go on to the next one. Denial. Ooh, denial is a good one about a lot of stuff. That's when the person said, "I never said that. What are you talking about?" So say I have a couple. Okay, and I'm working with a couple, and one of the partners says, we had this fight, and she looked at me and she said, "You're a beast. You're horrible. What you did was really screwed up. I mean, I cannot believe you must just feel disgusting about yourself." And then the other person says, "Wow, I never said any of that." And the person says, "Oh my gosh, you said all of that." No, I didn't say any of that. And when they do it very calmly, very, very calmly, and the other person is adamant that that person said it, you got to look into that, because that just drives people to the point of the escalation in the conversation. So a simple conversation that's healthy, again, my career would not exist if people knew how to communicate effectively.